Was it a story about love, trust, betrayal, or something else? We still have many unanswered questions about the Alabama jail escape story that captured the nation's attention. This morning, we have a live interview for you with Dr. Nora Charles. She is the director of the clinical psychology program at the University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg. Good morning, Dr. Charles. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
So it seems like former jail officer Vicky White made a complete change of direction in her life. Personally, this case has fascinated me because everybody's wondering what she was thinking. Initially, she was, of course, devoted to the cause of public safety, making sure inmates like Casey stayed locked up. But then she completely reversed course, giving all her loyalty and service to this dangerous inmate. So what do you think may have been the primary motivations behind her doing this?
So when things like this happen, often the person who seems like they've made this big dramatic shift in their life in relation to the second person, so the inmate in this case, potentially has been manipulated by that person. From what I've read about this case, of course, I don't know these people or work with them. The corrections officer was an upstanding person, was doing a good job. It doesn't sound like there were any difficulties on the job previously, and nothing really happened in her life that was problematic until she started this relationship, whatever it was, with Casey White. So my guess is that Casey was able to manipulate her, kind of trick her into believing a different version of reality and convince her that doing something like this was actually a good idea.
Goodness. Well, do you think that many people or anybody else would be capable of this type of dramatic switch in their loyalties?
It's certainly possible. People do make changes in their life and decide to do big switches in their professional or personal life. But most of the time, when it's a manipulation thing like this, you really need that other person to convince you to make a bad choice. And people are unlikely to do that just kind of in your everyday life.
What are your thoughts on any guilt that a person might feel when they switch loyalties like this?
Kind of depends on their motivation. So if they were motivated for personal reasons, they believe they were going to get financial gain or something out of this, then maybe they don't feel that bad about switching loyalties, doing something unethical. But if they were kind of tricked into it, then a lot of times those people do express remorse and realize that they would not have behaved that way in their normal life.
So like I said, I find this very fascinating. So just another psychology question, do you think that people might totally reverse their loyalties if they feel they've been betrayed? Not saying that's the case in this instance, but if they've been betrayed or feel underappreciated, do you think that could affect who they choose to place loyalties in?
That could be a factor. So a less dramatic version of that might be someone who was really loyal to a company they worked for a long time. They start to feel unappreciated, and then they start to do something unethical like stealing from the company.
Gotcha, okay. So now another loyalty question here. The switch shown by Vicky White was on a very intense level, but would you say loyalty shifts on a more minor scale? Are those fairly common around people in our society? Just exploring your thoughts on this, and what will be some examples?
They can be. So people change throughout their life, right? You may think that one set of beliefs or one kind of goal in your life is really important at one age and decide later that you want to live your life differently. And that's not always problematic. Other things people do that involve loyalty might be deciding to be unfaithful. So that's really changing loyalties to your spouse or your partner to this other second person that you're more interested in. So people do make these smaller shifts that don't have such a dramatic result sometimes.
Why do you think Vicky chose to kill herself when she and Casey were being captured?
Often when people do that in this kind of context, they do not want to go back to face the consequences of what happened. In her case, she has tarnished her professional reputation. Everybody she knows personally knows what she did. She probably realizes it was wrong and does not want to kind of have to deal with that.
We're talking this morning with Dr. Nora Charles, the director of the clinical psychology program, University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg. That's all the questions I have for you, ma'am. Anything else we haven't said that you'd like to add?
Well, yes, one thing. So often they do pre-employment psychological evaluations on corrections officers. And I don't know if that happened in this case, but doing a psychological evaluation on officers as well as inmates sometimes helps us predict when something like this could happen.
All right, Dr. Charles, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.